was accidentally drawn to this world of AI art. I was the IT secretary of the state that time. If we had come, artificial intelligence defeated the world champion. The shopkeepers there say, "Sir, please stop this repeated voice warnings." The commissioner of police and I discussed how to try and shortlist ways in which artificial intelligence, blockchain, NFT, IoT devices and other things could be used for public. Namaskar, this is Debashish Sen. Today, I am to recount a very beautiful experience that I am now going through. That is, how to make use of artificial intelligence in doing a unique thing called physical art. It all started when just before the COVID, we were seeing around Kolkata, and there was this robot called Sophie that had come to Kolkata. A lot of school children, college children were very excited that they could ask anything to a robot and who would answer truthfully to their questions. It was a very primitive start. Later we came to understand that these were mostly pre-arranged questions to the students. But a very important landmark was indicated because Sophie was the first robot to be given a citizenship by Saudi Arabia, the government of Saudi Arabia, in the year 2017, before the COVID. Therein starts the relationship with robots and human beings. A human being is recognizing a robot as a citizen. I think that was very interesting. Later, when we were having all kinds of discussions in the districts, the chief minister would take us, the senior secretaries. I was the IT secretary of the state that time. And I remember I was taking an evening walk. in Raiganj in North Bengal, where there was this conference being held. During my evening walk, I had put on my earphones and I was listening to a podcast. And that time, it was a sensation that using artificial intelligence in a game called AlphaGo, it's a very complex game, much more complex than chess. In that game, the famous world champion of South Korea, he got defeated by the machine. It was running deep machine learning. And even the makers were very surprised that the 37th move played by the computer in the AlphaGo game was never taught to them. And they thought it was a great self-learning methodology that has been demonstrated to the world. While listening to this episode, I was in fact feeling a little sorry for the then human world champion. But well, this is life. This created slowly a great deal of interest among all of us in the matters relating to artificial intelligence. And the Sophie had come, AlphaGo, computer defeated, artificial intelligence defeated the world champion, and COVID struck, the pandemic struck the whole world. I was in Newtown as chairman of NKDA, and we started using, in those periods of lockdown, a lot of face recognition software which are purely driven by artificial intelligence. And these face recognition software, we wanted to find a way in which we could use to combat COVID. So we took out an experiment. We got an experiment by one market of NKDA. It is called the CB Block NKDA market. And what we did, we called a startup. We were all doing the conferences on Zoom VCs. And we told them, can you make a face recognition software dependent solution that anyone who is not wearing a mask in his mouth will be given a warning? Our brief was that the market was in any case, 3-4 entries were there, and we stopped all but one to be the only entry. And as it is, we were putting security guards on duty to check that people were wearing their masks and were sanitizing their hands. But the problem with employing people is the security guard also has to take his periodical break, and this was often leading to many kinds of lacuna in the way this was being monitored. So we thought, can we put a CCTV? There are many CCTVs in the market. Can we use one of the CCTV's feeds to see if anybody is wearing a mask or not? So what we did, we took one of the CCTVs, we changed the angle so that anybody who's coming through the main gate can be tracked properly. There was this problem that if people came a little left or a little right, the camera would not catch properly. So what we did, we regulated the opening of the gate, putting a wire with the ground so that it just opened enough for one person to enter, and during that one person, when it enters, the focus was proper by the CCTV, which was on the corner of the building at a height of about 8 meters, that is on the first floor level. And this CCTV was trained to look at the face using a face recognition software to see if the person was wearing a mask over his mouth, as was mandated in those days, or not. And then the question arose, suppose it detected that there's a person who is not wearing a mask, so what to do? So what they did was, it would automatically trigger a pre-recorded messages. We got it recorded through our own Newtown radio studio by one of the employees, and it said in pure Bengali and in English that, sir, we see that you are not wearing a mask. Would you please mind to go out, wear the mask and re-enter again? So whenever somebody would come to the market without a mask, he or she would have to listen pre-recorded voice if he was not wearing the mask. So he would be reminded in front of others, and therefore he would go out and put on his mask. It was a great deal of success, and we monitored the results, and we found that at least 40% use of mask was increased. I mean, if out of 100 people, 40 people were not wearing the mask, a considerable number, after hearing this warning, started using it when they entered the market. So it was very successful. We used it throughout the COVID times. Only one thing, when I want to inspect as to how, what is the physical situation, one of the shopkeepers there say, sir, please stop these repeated voice warnings. We are so tired of hearing the same voice over and over again that we tell you that nothing else is required. We will monitor. So please stop this boring, repetitive voice from our earshot so that we can work in peace. So that was a practical application how we were using from artificial intelligence in a public life. And it was then also many more interesting developments around artificial intelligence. I am not talking about deep research, about things that affect our life started to come into being. In the whole of Newtown, for instance, we started changing all the existing CCTVs with highly resolution cameras so that they are able to understand and recognize faces. We used a very important and well-known organization on video analytics to advise us, and they were working in Newtown itself. They came forward and they advised us how to change the CCTV so that a business analytics layer is laid. This will then lead to many other possibilities, including catching a criminal. Talking of criminal, a few months later, a young student in front of Alia University in Newtown was run over by a speeding lorry and was killed. There was a great deal of students' unrest, and they would not allow any cars to pass on this road. Death of a student by traffic accident is very painful, and they were demanding immediate arrest of the truck driver and other precautions. About other precautions, more CCTVs were installed, more number of huge road bumps were installed, but the Commissioner of Police and I discussed how to use the newly installed CCTV feeds to find out the culprit lorry driver. So what was done is that although in practice one or two CCTV cameras were not working, this is a problem always in public life because somebody will cut a cable connecting the CCTV to the server room, and often CCTV feeds are not available, but most of the feeds were available, and by tracking all the 530 CCTVs, of which let us say 500 were functioning on that day this accident happened, the police were able to track by what route the lorry driver had fled, because the number plate and the lorry could be easily recognized across CCTVs across the various around 200 roads of Newtown. And indeed, errant lorry driver was arrested. So these kinds of practical applications were really kind of energizing us to go into more and more opportunities in which artificial intelligence can be used, and also other digital technology can be used for the welfare of the people of Newtown and elsewhere. On this thought, we found that a lot of new developments, while we were trying to find out that what is happening around the world, we do all kinds of Google research, and what we found was that there were a huge number of use cases all over the world that is happening. We even did a hackathon to try and shortlist ways in which artificial intelligence, blockchain, NFT, IoT devices and other things could be used for public use. Later on, we continued using this on a different note, but I also discovered a very, very important lesson from the AI that, in fact, the magazine, the famous UK magazine Economist, had carried an article which I read at that time, which said, nowhere to hide. There are CCTVs everywhere. Everybody, everywhere you are being watched. And there is no way people can be evading the police and the security and the government. Indeed, there is a book called Code AI by Madhumita Murgia. She is the editor of Financial Times of New York in the AI division, and she has written a wonderful book, and I've read it through. It's called Code Dependent: Living Under the Shadow of AI, where she describes how there is a utterly surveillant society now formed under AI. She talked about China, in which one innocent person but otherwise suspect, used to be continuously tracked by the government police, and he used to even switch off his phone so that he would not be traced, but it was difficult to do that. Even switching off of the phone triggered an alarm and the police would come running after him. So this is how what she describes in that book called Code AI is it's pervading, all pervading, and therefore what is happening is that she wants about various kind of regulation, not only about the hypes of AI, but also how authorities like the government, the police, the fundamentalist regimes can use AI, CCTVs and other things, nowhere to hide, to let you have your own private moment. To come back to these developments which I was following very closely, I also was accidentally drawn to this world of AI art. There are various people who are doing fantastic work in AI art. In fact, there is one person who is coming from Istanbul, I forget his name, even the latest issue of Economist, it talks about how he is making absolutely new kind of large language modeling in art. As we all know, large language model or LLM, which is ChatGPT, which is pre-trained transformative artificial intelligence that we all use in ChatGPT and AI Assistant and Gemini and co-pilots of the day, is that he took a large number of portraits to assemble all these pixels together. These were very, very exciting things that are going on. One is DALL-E, one is Mid Journey. Suppose I made an art using Mid Journey. I had a very keen interest